Welcome to the Zesty Ginger Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, Dr. Alex here with you. Welcome to our podcast. So happy that you're here. Today I'm going to be talking about gentle exposure therapy. So exposure therapy is nothing new, right? But Megan and I added for us, the gentle exposure therapy component for a strategy that we teach. So this is going to be an example of an approach for gentle exposure therapy and the steps needed to come back to not being worried about supplements. So this is a framework that I'm going to explain here. Now, whether or not you have a problem with supplements or you have anxiety with supplements or you've had negative effects of supplements, this framework is generalizable to everything. So with gentle exposure therapy, I have overcome stuff like being afraid of heights. So I used to significantly be afraid of heights, and it impacted me enough that it would impact my choices and the options that I had available sometimes. And generally speaking, I do not allow myself to stay in those spaces, right? If I have an issue, I resource myself up. So part of that was creating the actual answer and understanding that I have options and I reclaim it. And so between this and between gluten, there's lots of uses, and really it can be anything. I have used our gentle exposure therapy framework to teach a lot inside our Health Transformation Accelerator program, which is soon to be renamed. But inside that, we talk about that as a strategy, because no matter what it is, even if it's, hey, I'm too scared to get on sales call, or I'm too scared to push myself to podcast, you need to figure it out if you hope to do the thing that you say you want to do, right? If you're not going to bother, you don't have to worry about it. But if you say that you want to be a certain way and you don't feel good about doing it, right? Like you're just scared to do it, then getting resourced up and understanding how to approach yourself with gentleness, but still insisting that you overcome something and persevering until you do is a really empowering and liberating thing to have in your back pocket. So can't say enough good things about exposure therapy in general, but I love our gentle exposure therapy in groups, and when we do the in-person certifications for coaches, leaders, and practitioners, because they need it, and they're more importantly for the world at large, all the people that they're going to help need it, and then all the people that they're going to help need it, and exponentially over it goes. This is also, I specifically am talking about supplements because I'm going along with our current trend this month. We have had Organifi as sponsors, and so you've heard me talk about that all month long on the topic of supplements and bringing it all together, because like I've been saying along the way, we only interface with other companies that we feel we are in alignment in terms of what we are accomplishing on the planet, right? And so you've seen, if you've been around here for any period of time, is that we don't take a lot of podcast sponsors. And when we do, we aim to not just create, a 30-second thing that has nothing to do with anything, but rather, because it's aligned, it makes sense that it interfaces with the other things I want to teach, right? This is my opportunity to talk about this. This is a very important topic. A lot of people struggle with supplements. So the fact that we can help alert people to, hey, these exist and they're really phenomenal, they're options for you, and if you have a problem with this kind of thing, you can generalize to that and focus on the whole problem, impact it, fix it, overcome it, and make your life look the way that you feel good and the way that you actually want it to be, right? And so we always are looking at how can we show people what we're doing, and we explain and narrate along the way. So instead of just popping out with podcast sponsors, I have taken the opportunity in each of these episodes to really explain our line of reasoning, why we are doing it that way, because as we do that, other people get the benefit of being able to role model, look at it and model off of it. And then as they integrate and make it their own, other people get to do that too. So it becomes very cool. Organifi is awesome because they gave us some coupon codes. I purchase their stuff routinely, and so when there are coupon codes, I also take advantage of them. The coupon codes are down below, and Organifi is spelled Organiifi. Okay, so check that out, and let's dig into the episode. So this is really going to be a step-by-step, so I'm going to be walking you through the steps. Not the most exciting podcast episodes sound, but at the same time, I'm going to be explaining the components. So the point of gentle exposure therapy is to create bite-sized microscopic experiences of exposure while pairing it with hardwiring the body into having a parasympathetic, like a heal and learn, rest and digest, utilize mode, right? Instead of overshooting your capacity for the experience and getting into fight or flight, which then compounds the problem and makes it worse, right? Taking the supplements when you're scared to take them and then throwing them down the hatch, that's how people get to a lot of side effects because their body, freaks out, or they have nothing happen because their body doesn't even recognize it. There's lots of different options, and it's kind of a spectrum along the way, but essentially the point is to meet yourself where you're at and using the parasympathetic nervous system and the emotional compass that we all have at our disposal to move through exposure therapy in a gentle way. And again, the gentleness is defined as by you. So you'll hear within this, it is you deciding how you feel about it. No one else can really tell you these steps. And so the steps are very granular. It's very interesting. So you'll see just how detailed I break it down. Okay, so let's say somebody is in the scenario, they're like, I have some health problems, but a couple years ago, I went to the chiropractor, I went to a naturopath, I went to an MD, and they did a bunch of tests that cost a lot, and then they gave me 30 supplements and just said, take these. And then I took them, and then fill in the blank. There's 1,010,000 things that happen because of that, but not good. That's the story that you'll hear. So that's the person that we're talking about. And this is so common, it might be you listening to this. So, if you're relating, this might be just applicable to you right now to work through. Okay, so with that person, the place that we want to start is picking a relatively neutral option out of all the ones available to start working with. In my opinion, forms of magnesium tends to work for a lot of people because many people, even if they have a negative association with supplements, magnesium as a standalone compound one time, most people have not had a negative reaction to it, and they feel like it's natural, and they feel like it's relatively mild, and it just doesn't trigger them that much. The other options are whole herbs, so things like chamomile, which are calming, or there's like the powdered lavender or whatever. So those kind of things, as long as you have vetted that, are the kind of things. You can also do, for me personally, I don't do chamomile lavender capsule, I do the teas, because some people have kind of things that are liquid. If you're doing that, I sometimes have them put it into a dropper bottle because it has to look like the actual dropper bottle. Okay, but magnesium, when in doubt, I kind of start with magnesium, and then I will ask, hey, are there any supplements that you feel like you don't have a problem with? And in my experience, I've never had someone say it's all of them across the board. There are better and worse ones, and they will feel at least neutral. We're looking for neutral on any one of them, okay? They won't be that positive even when they're positive. People will be like, yeah, I heard magnesium's good for you for a lot of things, right? That's probably about as positive as you'll get for someone who's scared of supplements. So that should track out for you. All right, so you're going to pick a neutral one. And I like picking things that are common because step number 2 is going to be you're going to walk past that section in the store and you're going to look at the options there. And this is where we have to, in each of these steps, and is inherent with the internal check within yourself that sounds like, how do I feel about this? Because if walking past them, knowing you're walking past supplements and not making eye contact with them, for lack of a better word, is triggering to you, then, but it's available, that's what you should do. If that seems too easy and actually looking at them while you're walking past is the part that starts to feel a tiny bit uncomfortable, but it seems like you're available to try it, then that's the one that you pick. It's always better to undershoot and do the quote easier exposure therapy than overshoot, get re-triggered, and kind of have to backtrack. So walk past, and then because you're using your emotional compass, you will feel just a little bit when you flip into the, ooh, yeah, this looking at them feels like this. This is when you're going to pair a parasympathetic nervous exercise. So you can activate the vagus nerve. If you're weirdos in stores like Megan and I, you can hum, you can sing, you can gargle water if you have some with you, that kind of, you can thump on your chest. If you've been in any of our groups, you could do the ear scissors, cross-body tapping, cold exposure. There's a lot of different things to do. Legs up the wall. I won't go into it again. We've talked about this ad nauseum on the podcast. But parasympathetic is going to be I have the awareness that the emotions, the water ripples, and I calm myself down parasympathetically. That's very important because the actual exposure is calming yourself down, right? That's what you're learning. You're learning the skill of that with something that has triggered you in the past. So you're going to feel it just a little bit, and then you're going to calm yourself down. And that's going to continue throughout, but I will highlight as you go. Now, after you've gotten walking past it, eye contact or no, then the next step is going to be picking up the bottle in the store, maybe picking up a couple of them, looking at them, holding them, and then putting them back. And again, if that feels a little close to home, you pick up the bottle and your hand is outstretched, stop there. Do some parasympathetic, breathe. You can do like breathe in on the count of 4, breathe out on the count of 7. That's a parasympathetic exercise. Maybe you scoot it all the way close to your heart and your chest, and that feels that, ooh, it's closer to me now. That feels like it. Then you do the parasympathetic. And then you put it down and you walk away. At each of these points, you are leaving it and you're going, the next step will be on another day. The next time you're at the store. We're never in a hurry with gentle exposure therapy, or it's not gentle. So I need you to hear me on that one. All right, so then after you've done that, this is where paired with, I assume in talking about supplements that you are taking responsibility for checking with your provider and finding the resources to verify all this stuff. So that's just common sense things. But at that point, you're going to head over into which one of these, with enough repetition that I'm holding, feels good enough to drop in the cart, and then continuing to do that until you can get to feeling good or feeling relatively settled with doing some parasympathetic about actually purchasing one. So that is the first part, and that all can take as long or as fast as you emotionally feel available. If you feel intense fear, intense triggering, intense anxiety, you start shaking, you start crying, more than likely you've overshot. Remove yourself from the situation, try again another day. But you are at each point getting closer and closer to actually checking out with the one that you want, which is why I really like the magnesium options for it. All right. When you have a store versus an online choice, let's say you're at the store and you see a form of magnesium and you know that it's on Fullscript, we talk about it all the time here. Our Fullscript has 15% off. So a lot of times I will go look at it in the store and then I'll go order it through our Fullscript because I also want the 15% off, right? So, and we always put the Fullscript link in the show notes, so check that out if you haven't already. But that makes sense too. So I would invite you to consider if the kind of trauma associated with supplements, if you purchase them in the store, consider doing the other one first. Order it online and obviously check in with yourself to see how triggering that is. More than likely it'll feel different because your brain doesn't have that mapped out as much. And then if you ordered it online, what would it feel like to go to the store? And then flipping them and vetting out each one. This is not a necessary option. Like if you always just buy them at the store because you don't like to wait for shipping and stuff, which I'm so there with you. If I didn't have the 15%, I certainly would not. I'm not a patient person. But you can play with the delivery method of how do you feel. More than likely, the thing that reminds you of the past closer will be the thing that triggers you the most. Put that step later on in the process as part of the gentle exposure therapy. All right, so once you got it at your house, what you're going to do with it, you're going to, in a sense, we're starting the process over, but now internally to your house. So step number one is you're going to place the supplement on the counter where you can see it, and you're walking by and it's kind of the general mail. Now you've been around it already though, right? And you've already had the exposure therapy there. So this is going to be a different thing. You're going to see it more often. It's going to be within your environment. Probably after a while, you'll even stop paying attention to it because your brain will start to delete and distort information they don't need. But that is the exposure, right? You're just kind of like, this isn't that big of a deal. Then, step number two, same as in the store, picking up the bottle and holding it. How close or far away from you are you going to hold it? And then this is where it often starts to get like, oh gosh, it's at my house, I could take it. And so check in with the emotions and do enough parasympathetic to bring yourself down. And then you can just do that a couple times. If it felt hard, definitely worth practicing and repeating a couple times. Now the next step's going to be you open it, you open the bottle, you hold a capsule or whatever. Obviously, if it's just a liquid, you hold the bottle. Or you drop it into a glass. But then you're holding the capsule. Again, further away, closer away. Your job is to play with it in terms of how do I feel about this, and then pairing the parasympathetic afterwards. Yes, this feels a little challenging. I'm going to calm myself down. Oh, good, I feel better. I'm going to put it down. Time to walk away. At no point have you ever tried to take any of this yet, right? So if you have magnesium, at no place in this process have you yet taken any magnesium. And that's very important to keep in mind. And this is now when we've gotten here, this is where it starts to get really fun because the rubber hits the road. Now this is where we bring in visualization to gentle exposure therapy. And again, we know from research that you hardwire changes to the brain, and therefore the response of the body's physiology, like how the body actually responds, is impacted through visualization. And they've literally looked at, athletes and who did visualizations, or people who visualized making a movement, and they measure their muscle, and their muscle has grown without actually ever lifting the weights or doing the thing. So our brain tells our tissues what to do, and then changes are actually made. So this is not a magical thing. That's literally what the brain's job is, right? So we can't forget that it is instructional down to it. So visualization then, this is where you're going to begin to pair the picking up and holding it with the capsule in your hand, and then visualize taking it and doing parasympathetic exercises while you're visualizing it, and or after. After you have liberated that portion, then I switch to, there's twice a day visualization of walking by, opening the bottle, getting a capsule, and taking it. And then, and those I like to do in the morning and at night because I like to habit stack. Anyone who's in a retreat and has listened to any of our habit stuff, which there's going to be a training coming up in shortly, so just keep an eye out for that. But the with habits and visualizations, we like to pair with something you're already doing. So, for example, if you meditate in the morning before you get out of bed, or you look at your to-do list, I would pair it with that, where you're already brushing your teeth, you visualize taking the supplements. You're brushing your teeth at night, you pair it with that. So you have options, but I like to habit stack with it. And then in the middle, somewhere in the middle of the day, one time where you're actually physically going to get it, right? So the ones in the morning and the night are just visualizations. You can be laying in bed, you're not holding anything. And then during the day, this is where you have the opportunity to actually begin to interface with your physical environment. So you're holding the thing and you're visualizing, and then you're putting it back, and then you're done. That step can sometimes be the longest one because it's getting closer and closer and closer to being a reality for you. At any point, you have an awareness of the emotional compass, and when the water gets ripply, you pair it with parasympathetic. Really easy? It's supposed to be. When people are triggered, not the time to have 57 things that they need to do, right? Like at each of these steps, all you have to do is know how you feel and do something to calm yourself down. If it's too much, put it down and walk away. Period, right? And that's how it should be. All right. Now, like I said, that can take a little bit of time with the visualization. Usually, relatively rapidly after that, people will start to feel with that emotional compass that they want to try it. They're like, oh, hey, maybe if I take it, it won't be that bad, right? So once you hit there, I actually just start with like microscopic dust. I open the capsules, or like if it's a liquid, it's like a drop or two, and then that's where I start. So just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and same thing. If you bring it up to your lips and that's where you stop, great. If you actually put it into applesauce or whatever and you take it and that's where you feel good and just a little bit stretched in your capacity, then great, right? And again, you can take more time with that, and then you just want to start creating an incremental increase in that. So whatever that microscopic amount was that you started with, then how are you going to increase? Some people that I've worked with keep making microscopic tiny little changes. No problem, because again, you're getting to you being able to take the supplements however you want and feel good about that. So like, no one else cares. Unless if you never want to be able to take supplements again, then don't, again, we don't have to create problems where there aren't any. But at the same time, if we want to be fully liberated humans that are empowered to have options and choices, then we have to take responsibility for liberating it ourselves. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, how empowered am I feeling to be like, I really overcame this, and now whenever I want, supplements work for me and everything else. So incrementally, you can go as fast or as slow as your emotional compass tells you you have the allowance to go, and that's only between you and you. And at that point, you are up and running, because the difference between, a quarter of a pill and getting up to 2 is exactly the same. Once you're at 1, you just keep adding incrementally until you get it. Most people can begin to go faster and faster as their brain learns to not react stressfully to the stimulus. At this point, this is where this section stops, and you actually go on to beginning to work with other supplements, other sources. So at that point, if you're like, well, Vitex was cool, or Maca was cool, or this multivitamin was cool. Let me try there. And then the next one is, ooh, this was fine, but I did question if I had a little bit of fatigue the first 3 days, right? Not as strong. It's not, I had an allergic reaction, I went to the ER. This is, I wasn't quite sure about this one. It's like doesn't quite feel clean, doesn't quite feel super juicy. Then that's the next step. And then down the line you go. And again, you stop wherever you want to be free, right? So if you're like, I've done enough, for the most part, I'm happy with what I'm doing, this is good enough, you determine that. And then if you are like, actually, I never want to question or really have fear around supplements again, and I am just not the type of human that's going to be scared of some stuff in bottles, then go as far as you need to go to become the identity of who that really is. And each decision that you make is a lot of information for you. You'll know, and you'll begin to have more and more insight into who you are, how you work, and what you're willing to do to create the life that you want. So this gentle exposure therapy model is incredibly powerful, and it is also a beautiful mirror for us to see the patterns of behavior and thoughts that we have that are either working for us or holding ourselves back. And then once you see them, then really that's where the fun part is. I mean, seeing them is not the fun part, but once you see what your behavior is and what you're doing and what it's leading to, you can change it. And those decisions to take actions and move in a different way is where the fun stuff is, because then you get results, you have new experiences, you get wins, and then your own brain now is imprinted with those wins. It no longer has the capacity to see supplements and other things in your life in the same way. You just proved to yourself that it isn't. So I will never again have the same feeling around heights. The way I feel about heights is very empowering. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to never be able to do this. That's my first thought about heights. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm still scared. So you get to drive the ship as far and as wide as you want to go, and with as many topics as you want to do, because honestly, this can work for just about anything. And if I ever find something it doesn't work for, I'll let y'all know. But so far, I have not come across it. All right, so cool. I hope that was super helpful for you. I would love, as always, to hear what you think, hear about your experience with it. So please reach out to me. Shoot us an email at support@zestyginger.com. Check out the coupon code for Organifi and pick up some of those. And I will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podcasts helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.